So is it possible for disabled women, women with chronic illnesses to decenter men, especially when it comes to their finances? This is a really thoughtful question that has come up in the comments, and it's not the first time. I remember in the early months of me being on TikTok, which at the time was the only platform that I used to share any ideas and thoughts on, I did a video around money. So I used to talk about money a lot and the invisible contracts connected to money specifically. And I also got halfway through a series where I was giving single women in particular ideas for ways that they could make more money. And this question came up, and I remember recording a video, which to this day still literally comes up in my mind, because that video I did, I understand how it could have been perceived to be tone deaf or insensitive. And I've thought about that video a lot. So when I saw this comment come up on the decentering men lesson that I shared here, I knew that I had an opportunity to talk about this in long form, because of course on TikTok, you've only got so much time to really talk. So the first couple of things I want to say before we get into this today is that my context is that I fundamentally believe and have always believed that money is a renewable resource, that it is neutral in the sense that it is not owned by men. Okay. Now, a lot of women, or most women, have been conditioned and socialized to believe that money fundamentally comes from and through men. And part of my issue that I have is that I think we have to get to a point as women where we recognize that unless we're living in a land or a country where marriage is the only survival strategy and opportunity open to us, we do have some choices, even when we feel that those choices are limited. And I think it's very problematic in 2026 as a woman, whether you're a girl, young woman, to believe that your only option for financial security, whatever that means to you, financial stability or access to finances, is indeed to partner with a man. And then on top of that, partner with a man that does not align with your values, that you deem to be dysfunctional, abusive, toxic, etc. And I think for me, as somebody who did not grow up receiving money from men, my biological father was absent. He did not provide financially. And so you have to understand that for me, ideologically, mentally, emotionally, logistically, men have never been a source of money for me. So regardless of what I might be experiencing in my life, whether it's health problems, any other problem, a man has just never been on the bingo card in terms of being able to rescue, save, change, or hold my finances or my future. And so when I am sharing these ideas and I do this work, I understand that I am operating fundamentally from a very different place. Because yes, that socialization and conditioning exists. I come from a culture where that's definitely a belief. I came from a religion where what is taught is that men are the head of the household and they must provide. And so growing up in a single parent family, I was acutely aware of how society saw us. And the fact that, you know, money and status matter. But I had already practiced and decided and experienced that I was going to make money no matter what. I wasn't going to sit around, wait around mentally, emotionally for a man to give me money. And so it's never been an option for me. I don't even, it's not aspirational, it's not inspirational for me to think, well, this is the kind of life I want to live, so I need to partner with a man. Now, I know that what we're about to talk about is in specific relation to women who have chronic illnesses and disabilities, but I think it still applies. And it's even more concerning to me when I see women opt into unhealthy relationships where they know that this man is not appropriate, he is not a viable partner, but purely on the basis of money. And again, hear me well, because I'm not talking about a time 100 years ago, 50 years ago, 40 years ago. I'm talking about the here and now. In 2026, that does not have to be a decision that you make as a woman. We need to move away from feeling or thinking and believing that your only option is a relationship with any man in order to have food, shelter, and clothing. No, or you're alone and on the breadline and struggling to eat your next meal. There is a spectrum And that's really the thrust behind a lot of the ideas that I share around self-authority, psychological adulthood and self-authority, exercising self-authority. And it does mean that sometimes we are experiencing very real realities and challenges, but that doesn't mean that we should regress or obey invisible contracts around money coming from men. And this is something I won't mince my words on, because you have to, as a woman, have to understand there is no guaranteed safety if you are opting in to a relationship with a man because of money. That will not provide safety. It might mean you've got shelter and food and clothing, but there will always be a trade-off. And let me also say this: if you are a woman who has a disability, whether it's invisible, visible, maybe you're neurodiverse, or you have a physical disability, dating men just to be financially secure and stable also puts you in a very vulnerable, precarious situation. Because unless you meet a man that is decent and he has a decent character, you leave yourself open for exploitation and liberty and being abused. Okay, because the thing is, I hate to say it, and this, I'm not anti-men, but I will always be very clear with the patterns that we see playing out in society. You are not special. You're not exceptional. And it's okay. None of us are. None of us are above the program. And so when you go into dating and relationships, relying on men for money, and even if you've legitimized it in your mind because you think, well, I've got a disability, I can only do so much by myself, so this is what I need to do, you will find that you still have to perform certain things in that relationship and marriage, because it's very rare that men are going to provide financially for an adult woman expecting nothing in return. Even when you look at how traditional marriage is set up, there is a role that both have to play. There is a performance that women have to perform. Okay? And so if you are a woman who has disabilities, regardless of the nature of it, you will have to perform in that role. If you are dating and getting married purely for financial security and stability. Now, this is nothing new. Women have done that since the dawn of time. But remember, okay, the most of the time, the reason why women did that is because you had no other option. We're now living in different times. And so, look, it is an important question. And like I say, I understand that at times I can come across as very, on this topic, when it comes to women and money, and detaching from this myth that money comes from men and that is a safe, sustainable option to rely on men for money. I know that I'm very straight down the line, and that can feel insensitive, that can feel tone deaf. Okay, but here's the thing: it is very important for adult women, okay, if you have your thinking faculties, you've got to lock in and choose to show up the best way you can financially as an adult, because it is also a protection. If you are reliant on anyone, but especially a man, for food, shelter, and clothing, you are in a precarious situation. And your disability, I would venture, makes that vulnerability greater. All right? So I recognize the fact that at times for women, if you have a disability, etc., your energy, your mobility, your health affects the way you earn money. And so this is a very real conversation about how you achieve financial independence within that. Okay. Where to start on this? Well, I've already told you, the safest answer is not that financial dependence on men is the option, okay? But here's some other things that I will share with you. Historically, okay, historically, you had to work hard and you had to work physically or be present in the workplace. We're in new times now. In fact, COVID rapidly changed that. And it's interesting when you see a lot of disability activists out there, they really do double down on the fact that COVID revealed that you can indeed work remotely and hybridly and still add value. And so I think that is a major piece that we need to think about in this day and age. Not every means of generating an income for yourself will require you to be physical. and physically present in a space. You can absolutely be adding value, solving problems, contributing to teams, and working remotely and hybrid if necessary. And one of the things I want you to bear in mind as we talk about this is it is going to require you often to be creative and think outside of the box. That is what life right now requires of us all, especially women, okay? Because when you look at the way the future of work, okay, is looking, when you look at the way work dynamics are changing in general, what we as women need to shift to quite often is thinking about money as a renewable resource and less thinking around the typical systemic structures that sit around money. Because look, women have been excluded from financial institutions and money systemically from the beginning of time. However, money itself still circulates outside of those systems. And there are lots of ways we as women can tap into that system, okay, and still generate income for ourselves and generate enough money for ourselves. Is it true that the cost of living has gone up? Yes. Is it true fundamentally it actually costs more to live as a single person? That is true. And that's why I talk about the single woman economy. In fact, this weekend on Substack and LinkedIn, I've talked about how solo living alone, what the cost actually of that is. So these macroeconomic realities are real. I'm not saying they're not. What I'm saying, though, is that money circulates within that and outside of that. And as women, we need to be resourceful, industrious, and we need to be creative. And a lot of this starts in the mind. Because if you're still, attached to this idea that money comes from men, you're onto a loser in the first place. If you're sitting there thinking to yourself, the reason why I don't have X, Y, Z that I need as an adult human being to live and function is because I don't have a male partner, you're onto a loser. From the get-go. From the get-go, you're onto a loser. Money does not live only in men at all. Now, here's some of the things that I think we need to do. We need to expand our economic imagination. I'm somebody who's worked for myself for 10 years. Okay, I am a single woman, I'm child free, and I've had a lot of responsibility across the span of my life so far. So I know very acutely, okay, what it takes to generate income. And so what it has required me to do is expand my economic imagination. Sometimes I wish I could split myself 3 ways because honestly, there's so many, ways of generating income that I see that can sometimes, honestly, I'm like, there's something for everyone. There's something for everyone. And like I say, if you have your thinking faculties, 1, 2, if you have some qualifications, 3, if you have some skills, even without the qualifications, there are ways of making money now. And I can't emphasize this enough. Women have a massive opportunity right now to make money in non-traditional ways using innate skills that you actually have, okay? So for example, think about the fact that social media, okay? Social media is a system of power, that is true. But one of the things undoubtedly social media has done is enabled people to make money on their own terms. You can sell products and services directly to people. It is a skill, and it's a skill that you can learn. It's a skill that you can choose to learn. All right. And so that's why you see people who sell digital products. People sell digital products. There's remote consulting. You can tutor, you can coach, you can write for a living. You can copyright for a living. You can design, you can do research, bookkeeping. You can be a virtual assistant. You can manage community for people. There's online education. There's licensing options. There's content creation. The amount women make up a majority of the influencer content creation space. And by the way, now I'm coming on to this. Now you've got social media plus artificial intelligence. You could be doing things faceless. You don't have to show your face like I do. You don't have to build a personal brand per se. There are ways that you could either support people making money online or start making money online yourself. And I can guarantee you, a lot of the time, two YouTube videos, Book a call with someone who's been doing it and has done it before. Earlier this year, I taught 78 single women all over the world how to sell something online and how to sell something to a corporate organization. These women were from all over the world, different ages, different stages in their professional careers. Some of them were freelancers, some were in typical employment roles. I cannot emphasize enough, social media plus artificial intelligence, it is democratizing access to money for anyone. This is not about being smart either, by the way. You know, most money is made by just following a process. Your intelligence won't matter. It won't make the difference. It's about whether you're willing to do it. And if you have a chronic illness, if you have a physical disability, depending on what it is, okay, now please avoid the bean soup theory in the comments and avoid bringing up these kind of extreme exceptions. But one thing I do know is there are ways that you can generate income on your own term. These days, there are platforms, Stripe, Gumroad, Kajabi. These are platforms that you connect your bank account to. You can put a digital product in or just a calendar thing. Someone can book a call. You can teach them something, share something, solve a problem, and receive money. And I know when I talk about this that people think it's not that easy. It is simple if you decide to research the myriad of ways that you could be making money online or even offline, even with a disability, depending on what it is. Okay? These days with AI, my goodness, it's a booming field. All you need to do is learn one AI tool well, like the back of your hand. You can then go and offer that service to other people, whether it's to do it for them or teach them how to do it. I see it all the time online, all the time online. Now, I appreciate not everybody wants to be an entrepreneur. Not everybody wants to have a business. That's fine. But we're talking about generating income for yourself. You don't have to build the next unicorn business. You don't have to employ anybody. It's about how you generate income. There are people who solve problems for people. And some of this work you can do at home on a laptop, on a phone. If you've got Wi-Fi, you can do this. It requires you to learn the skill and follow through. And the reason why I'm so firm on this is that, like I said, there is no guarantee for safety. Okay, if you are already vulnerable and you are looking to a man to provide for you, there's no safety in that inherently. You've got to find a decent man who is not going to take advantage of you. But like I said, when you're an adult woman, it is not wise to be relying on somebody else to literally provide for you. It's not wise. What I would suggest you do is reframe your mind. We need to expand our economic imaginations about how money can come into our lives, into our bank accounts, in ways that you think are aligned with your values, in ways that you don't have to lose your dignity in exchange for. Right? This is why I feel so strongly about talking about self-authority. Because this is an area when it comes to money that a lot of women struggle with. It is not good enough, really, to give yourself only two options, which is broke or broken. When you make unwise choices in these men, those can't be the only two choices, broke or broken, right? The other thing that's really important when you are a single woman or a woman with disabilities, chronic illnesses, is community. Because ultimately, you want to be in community with other people who, one, can share resources, can share information. That's part of the reason why I really even started building the Unpunishable Woman community. Yeah, because I understood that I think in a certain way, and actually I couldn't see a community out there. I was tired, sick and tired of content all about how to get a man, all of this nonsense, right? Totally uninterested in it. Quite frankly, I'm interested in living a life that is just... it's expansive, joyful, glorious. And so that's why I started sharing ideas online about what it means to be an unpunishable woman. What framework do I use? Do I teach in my work around this stuff? Community is very important. You have to, when you are switching your mind, especially when you are detaching from a lot of socialization and conditioning around the restricted roles that women can play and the deification of men in your life. When you are on that journey and you're moving into psychological adulthood, you need community. You need to be around other women on a similar journey. You need to be around women who are resourced, women who do have information. But here's the thing, you've got to be willing to learn. You've got to be willing to receive that information. Because if you're still in a place where you're like, oh no, that won't work, it's not possible, and you still really deep down want a man. And this is the other thing. It's okay to want a partner, okay? But do not kid yourself into thinking the reason why I need a partner is for money, because that's not the reason why you need a partner, okay? If you want it, want it. But you can't keep saying it's because you're disabled and you're worried about money. Want it. Own that. That's self-authority too. But in relation to money, there are plenty of opportunities and ways that women can be making money right now, especially when you consider social media and artificial intelligence. You don't have to go through the gatekeepers of the past. If you don't want to work in corporate, you don't have to. If you want a part-time job, you can get it. If you want a side hustle, a little bit of freelancing, and like I say, so many women are making money online. I saw a woman. She makes coloring books. She uses artificial intelligence. She creates coloring books and she puts them on Amazon. And then her job is to create content. She does that from home. Couple of hours, if that a day. Drive sales to her online shop. Now you might be scoffing at this because, by the way, you can sell something for $17. I've sold things for $5,000. Same effort, same time. And I sit right here, braless and barefoot most days. When you see me show up daily, okay, obviously if I go on site with a corporate client, I'm not braless and barefoot, but 90% of the time I am. I only need Wi-Fi. I told you, when I started my consulting business after closing a coffee shop down, okay, and I had multi-six figures in debt, I only had a secondhand phone and a secondhand laptop. The laptop had to stay charged in. It was that old. But I would sit down on my little desk. I had a little fold-down desk that I bought during the pandemic. And I used to sit down every morning at that desk, the laptop plugged in, my second-hand mobile phone, and I would do what needs to be done. I did what I do now. I reached out to businesses that I could help. And from that seat, I paid off multi-six figures in debt. Now, I appreciate the fact that there are all different kinds of disabilities, and I couldn't possibly list and know them all, much less know what it's like to live in that body. But what I am saying to you is there are ways you can create infrastructure in your life so that you can generate income on your own term. And yes, I am bullish about this because these times call for it. And I do believe a lot of the time when you are a woman who is still entrenched in this belief that money comes from men and that he can be a savior, a rescuer, and in fact, if you're even willing to trade in some of your dignity just to have a man give you money so you're not worrying about bills, you do need a firm voice at times. You need a firm voice, and you need somebody else who's got economic imagination to come along and say, here are some practical things you could do to make money. But yes, it requires effort. It requires some learning. You have to be open to the suggestions. And all you need to do is one thing. You don't need to be doing all of the things. One thing. Find the one thing that hopefully you enjoy and you have the skill to do, or you develop the skill. You develop the skill to do that thing. Right? I understand that depending on what life has dished out to you and depending upon the way your disability or chronic illness impacts you on a day-to-day basis, it can be consuming. You can feel like there is no hope but there are options. As I said, there are very few exceptions to this. There are ways that you can generate income on your own terms. Now, if you still want a relationship after that, self-authority means you will make that decision. But you know what? Any old man is not an excuse. Yeah, and this is my problem. A lot of the time, if it is that you believe that a man is a safety measure financially, then you do have to choose wisely and selectively. And I don't want to hear anything about, they pretend to be something else when you first meet them. If you look at what's up, no, then that means you can stay single. Millions of women are single. Millions of women are celibate, if that's what it takes. Your only option isn't to choose a man that you yourself believe is abusive or dysfunctional or your values don't align. You have options here. The only option isn't to be with a man. Now, one of the places you can start, of course, is downloading, it's completely free, the Invisible Contract Framework Foundations. It's somewhere in the link or the description.